Yeah. What it do? Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your legendary host, Darryl Wingfield. Wow. What a special episode. 99 episodes in for the Purpose Served podcast. And can you believe it that we made it this far? On October 21st, 2020, I put out my first podcast episode going on 5 years ago. Boy, does time fly. 5 years ago, I never thought that I'd be at this point. I never thought that people would be considering the things that I've been talking about for the last 4.5 years. And what a crazy journey that has been to get to this point. I've been deeply reflecting about episode 99 and 100 going forward, knowing that it's a lot of changes that needs to be made for this podcast and also for Purpose Served as a brand in general. But first and foremost, I want to thank you guys who have been tuning in for the last couple years. Even the people that's been recently tuned in, I want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. Y'all are so appreciated from anywhere that you're listening from. From the United States, from Germany, of course. They've been showing me so much love. And from anywhere on this planet, I pray that this is inspiring you to serve your purpose. I pray that this is inspiring you to seek God. If you feel as though you've been lost and you feel as though you don't have a purpose and you feel as though you don't have any goals in life, that you feel as though your life ain't nothing. Something in you is lying to you in that regard. If you do feel like that, and don't identify with that because it's not the truth. Like I said, it's a lie. I've grown so much within these last couple of years due to a lot of different life circumstances. But the one thing that helped me grow tremendously on this journey is seeking the truth above all else. And also trying to do the best that I can with the best of my ability to bring the truth to y'all. But bring the truth to myself first. Because I'm big on, if you do not help yourself, there's no way in hell that you could possibly help anybody that's around you. I've had incredible guests on this podcast, ranging from Purvis Ellison, who was the first round NBA draft pick in 1989. My boy, Michael Settle, who has a fitness brand and who is doing his thing right now. Grace, who is a social worker and that helped me get centered within myself when I was doing breathing practices with her for like 2 years. She was also a guest on this podcast. Sean Mills, another pivotal person in my life that I talk about on here constantly, that if it wasn't even for him, Purpose Served would not exist. And he runs a basketball program where he helps out anywhere from professional athletes all the way down to kids that's just starting off playing, with developing their game and also getting them to places where they can be seen. and giving them exposure. He helped me out tremendously. And so many other people, my mom, that's been on this podcast, who's now currently the chief of police in Massachusetts at UMass University. Tremendous, great lady. I had her on here twice. But due to all of these people, due to situations that was happening outside of the purpose served platform and inside of myself, like I said, I learned a lot. I learned so much. And the one thing that I learned that's extremely pivotal is taking care of the world that's inside of you. And by taking care of the world that's inside of you, you will be able to maneuver in the chaos that's outside of you, the outer darkness. There is something that's going on in this world, and it's being fragmented. We are definitely headed towards calamity and destruction. And it starts with within us first. Everything that we're seeing and the chaos that we're seeing, it stems from the world that's within us first. And then after that, what tends to happen is we project it onto material outside things. People keep speaking and whispering about rumors of war. People keep speaking on how their mental is shot and how they aren't able to focus and they're emotionally unstable. People also aren't investigating deeply what is the root and the cause of these things. And due to this journey that I've been on with Purpose Earth, that's been something that's been at the forefront and plastered right in front of me to investigate and get down to the bottom of, because I'm no different from you guys, and we all should be looking at humanity as a reflection of ourselves instead of looking at it as we are separate and distinct from one another, because that's not the case. That is not the case. And studying the works of people like Joseph Campbell with the hero's journey, Carl Jung with the process of individuation, and Plato with the allegory of the cave, is retelling the same story that's been told throughout history. And that is, we have to separate from the world that we know and head towards an unknown world to find the treasure that's in the unknown world and then bring it back to the known world. And I've went through that process myself a countless amount of times. And this process started off with me at this point 10 years ago. And I speak about this often. I haven't spoken on it as of late, but I speak on this often with my journey of how I started playing basketball and how that transitioned to me where I'm at right now. And the starting point was me leaving the United States and going to Europe for the first time to play basketball in Girona, Spain. And that was me separating from the world that I knew to head towards an unknown world to come back with a treasure. And all of this is so unconscious. This is not stuff that I was conscious of when I was real life in the moment. And that day that I did leave to go to Spain, the the infamous story is I broke my phone at the airport to get to Spain. And all the information that I had was on this phone. And the only thing that I knew when I left was the hotel that I was going to be staying in and the city that I was going to be staying in. That's all I had. And the most distinct question that I pretty much up until this day that I got asked up until my life, up until that point in my life from my mom when I was at the airport was she asked me, "Do you want to stay or are you going to go?" And unconsciously, I chucked up the deuces and I turned around. And I headed up the escalator. And I remember the gut-wrenching feeling of me having a one-way ticket and me not knowing how this is about to go down. And thinking that immediately, like, this was a bad decision, as with many that I made up until this point. And up until that point, I was trying to escape the problems that I built for myself here in the United States by chasing this dream with playing basketball and hoping for the best. It was straight faith and hope and the love of the game. Fast forward 5 years from that point, found myself playing in Spain, Puerto Rico, Las Vegas, North Carolina. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's like pretty much the places that I played in up until that point. And the one thing that hit me was I wanted to do a TED Talk when it was all said and done. I wanted to do a TED Talk more than I wanted to play in the NBA. I wanted to inspire people more than I wanted to play basketball. And a quote that inspired me was from Kobe Bryant when he said, "I want my next 20 years to be better than my previous 20 years." And that stuck with me. That stuck with me because here I am, like, thinking like, "Dang, man, this dude in the last 20 years of his basketball career accomplished so much, and he's looking at the next 20 years like I'm going to accomplish even more than what I previously accomplished." And that was inspiring to me. And during the pandemic, right around September, when I started getting the idea of Purpose Served, I just wanted to inspire people to take action on their dreams and aspirations because of how much that can change your life, because of what it did to my life up until that point. And getting past limited beliefs of what you think you are and how you think, like how your feelings can block you from living out your true purpose and living out your true dream. And for me, playing basketball, it did all of that for me. And I had to keep facing myself when I was filled with doubt, when I was filled with fear and discouraged. But every single time that I stepped out on the basketball court, it disappeared. I was able to block and tune all of that out once I stepped in between those lines, because nothing else mattered but what was directly in front of me and what was around me. And only thing that I cared about was playing to the best of my ability, and most importantly, winning and contributing to the team's success. And in moments like that, it was no room for doubt. It was no room for fear, like, with me at all. And I took these qualities that I developed on the court and I brought them off the court. And in the allegory of the cave with Plato that I just mentioned earlier, is you have 3 levels to get through. And I've experienced 3 levels up until this point in my life. The first level was being in deep darkness. And before I left to go play basketball in Spain, I was in deep darkness. Everything around me was bringing me down. The habits that I had, the things that I was addicted to, and the people that I had in my life, it was no good. It was absolutely no good. And I was thinking of a way to escape that desperately. And then the allegory of the cave. you have people chained to a wall. They're chained to a wall, and they looking at projections of fake images on a cave wall. And behind another wall that they're leaning on, they're chained to this wall, like shackled and chained to the wall. And behind the wall, there is images that's being projected by people that's on the wall. So you have a fire behind the wall of the people that's being shackled, and they're seeing pictures of vases, flowers, fish, and it's only shadows that they can see because of the fire that's in back of them that's on his wall. And unfortunately, I was in that predicament, and a lot of people are still in that predicament now. And I can equate this to this very day of how people take in media, whether it's them distracting themselves with their TV subscriptions and show subscriptions. I don't even know what to call it. For real. Like Hulu, Netflix, and whatever going on their social media feed. Those are the projections that's on the wall. And then behind those people that's shackled are the people that's holding up the images that's facing the cave. Now we're approaching the second level. So we got the darkness of the wall, and now we got the false light that's within the cave that's being presented by this artificial fire, which is the source of light, but not the real light. On my way of personally climbing out and unshackling myself from the cave, you kind of start to see what's really going on, but you don't have clarity yet because the true light haven't hit you. And the true light didn't hit me. It took a while for the true light to hit me. And this is a process of ascending, going up, and instead of being weighed down, shackled down. And these people that has the false sense of light, they got a little bit of freedom. And it's a false sense of freedom at the same time, where they have a choice to go even higher, but no, they're contributing to even more darkness within this cave. And as you go up and as you ascend, it's less and less people. And in the darkness of the cave, in the deepest darkness, the people that shackled and looking at the wall, that's where you're going to find the most people. I was, like I said, I was once there. I was blinded to the world around me because ultimately the people that's shackled to the wall, they're living in a lie. They're not living in the truth. And something in me was greatly disturbed. Something in me knew that I wanted better, but another part of me, the lie that I was telling myself was I didn't deserve it, and I was never ever going to get over the hump. But another part in me, as much of fear I was like feeling, I was also courageous enough to face that part of myself and face my fears through and through. And that's ultimately what made me start making that climb out the cave to begin with. And me making that climb out the cave, for example, was me going overseas, but not necessarily having the truth yet. And please stay tapped in to the end of this podcast episode, because we will be dropping gems throughout this whole entire thing. And I'm going to tell you guys how to get the true source of light and where you can directly find it at. How amazing is that? But during my journey of playing basketball, I realized that it was an internal battle that I was dealing with first and foremost, rather than anything that was coming outside of me. I knew this. I knew this as clear as day. And as you start making this climb out the cave starts to get more narrow. And you have people as you going up out of the cave that's coming in and out the cave. And you are even people being stuck within that narrow path of the cave. And due to the fact that you were looking at darkness this whole time and a little glimmer of light, that's not necessarily the real thing. Once you start to look outside of the cave, you see the real light. And it's blinding in a way. And some people are scared to go towards this light. And you will have some people that they're going to decide to go towards this thing no matter what. And the people that see this light and get scared of it, oftentimes they go back down. Because it's more comfortable to be in the darkness than to ascend towards the true light. That was me as well. Worrying about what people would think about me. Worrying about if I'm doing the right thing or not. And that halts you. That truly slows you down on this path. When I first started Purpose Served, it was a lot of things that I had to get over myself in regards to doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is speaking into a camera and being comfortable with doing so. Feeling as though that I don't know if it's going to come across the right way. I don't know if people are going to resonate. What if nobody is listening to me? And you have to get past that. You have to get past that. And there was such an uncomfortable feeling when I was waiting for my podcast equipment to come in. I started second guessing myself like crazy. Like, this is possibly the dumbest thing that I've ever done to try to get my message out there. Even when I first recorded my podcast episode, it was super cringe. It was hard to look back and watch. It still kind of is. I can't even lie to you. I kind of don't like listening to myself talk. Still to this day. I don't know why. I kind of do know why. Because I know what I'm thinking. I know what I say, because I say this stuff constantly. I really say this stuff constantly to any and everybody that I come across for the most part. But around that time also, I didn't have the wisdom and understanding that I do now. And I'm still growing. Like, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I want to also stress that like crazy. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. There's a lot of room for improvement. And even along this journey with certain podcasts that I put out there, I've been wrong about a lot of things. To be quite honest. And my viewpoints have changed drastically throughout the years. Within these 4.5 years of me doing this. But yet and still, I had to go through. And there has been challenges, like true challenges that was going on around me, from the personal relationships that I had within my life with family, friends, all different types of stuff. Living situation, cars going down, the daily struggle of life. And also looking at that as it won't slow me down no matter what. It's not going to slow me down. And the third level to this allegory of the cave is the sun. So we got the darkness of the wall, we got the false light, and the sun. What the sun is you making it outside of the cave and you seeing the real source of light for the first time. And that's a blinding experience. It's a stunning experience. You activating your senses being activated for the first time. Where You can smell the flowers, where you can hear the birds chirping. You can see the sky. You can feel the grass under your feet. The natural world for what it really is, rather than it being projected to you on a wall. When you seeing the form of a flower, when you seeing the form of a vase, when you seeing the form of a bird, but you're not experiencing the real thing. And like I said, it's a blinding experience at first. And once I first truly came across the light myself, it definitely was a blinding experience to come across it. And for most people, they don't necessarily make that climb to experience that. And it's for a rare few amount of people. It's not for everybody, because everybody truly don't want it. A decent amount of people want to live in the darkness. They want to live in the cave, and they're cool with just looking at the projections on the wall and being shackled down instead of being free. And there's two people that I'm going to be mentioning in regards to this, but biblical references. Yeah, we are on our Bible journey. And we are on our Bible journey. But when you truly come across this light, it will blind you, and it's going to take your senses to adjust to this light. The light that I'm talking about is not an external thing, as in the allegory of the cave, but it's a internal thing, paradoxically speaking. And once you do truly come across this light, you will have to make your way. You're going to have a choice. You got two choices when you come across this true light. You are either going to sit in that light and just be in it yourself, or you're going to go back in the cave to bring the light to the people. And then once you bring that light to the people do one or two things. They let the darkness that they're going back to corrupt them, and to a way where they're taking advantage of the light that they receive to take advantage of other people to get self-satisfaction from it. And any self-satisfaction, it will come from material things. Self-satisfaction will come from the passions. And the passions are anything that keeps you chained down to earthly matters, whether that's clothes, job titles and positions, people in relationships, pleasure that comes from the body, and eating, sex, anything worldly. Anything of this earth is associated with the passions. People will use that to take advantage of you. And if you pay close attention to media that I've been speaking on, they hijack those things and condition you to want pleasure, to seek comfort, to seek an ease in life. And seeking those things is a surefire way to lead to the death of your body. Second, but first and foremost, it's the death to your soul. And the trick with the passions is to die to them and die to your body, so you can find true peace and eternal life within your soul. And once you make it out the cave, you're going to experience that. So when you go back down into the cave and you go with option 2 instead of 1, and option 1 is deceiving people based off of the truth that you receive, and ultimately you tricking yourself, honestly. You got option 2 to bring the light of the truth to the people that's deep down in the darkness. something that I spoke on here, and I haven't spoken on this podcast in a really long time. It's just that this is what happens when you bring the truth to people that's not ready to accept the truth yet. They ostracize you, and they look at you as somebody that is a laughing stock. Don't take them serious. And if you make it past that point where they're forced to take you serious, they then look at you as a threat. Now, there are two people that I'm going to speak on is St. Paul and Abraham in regards to this journey. And we're going to switch this up because this is about to get a little wonky and this is about to get a little crazy. So hold on tight. Be with me because we're about to switch the cloth. I'm going to talk about the hero's journey. So I brought up the allegory of the cave, the hero's journey, and the process of individuation. But right now I'm focusing on the hero's journey, which was created by Joseph Campbell when he studied the monomyth and studied world religions and different cultures all across the world, all throughout history, and how they have common themes and common tropes. Now, the hero's journey is about separating from the known world, going into the unknown world, and finding that hidden treasure, the boon, and bringing that back to the known world and making that return. That can also be associated with the hero's journey. I mean, not the hero's journey, the allegory of the cave, of making your way out the cave and finding the true light and going back within. Which I want to break this down before I move on. So going from an internal sense, when you're dealing with yourself, the allegory of the cave can be associated with you leaving that outside world, the known world, and going within to find the true light, and then coming back and returning. So in the hero's journey, the two people that I just named, St. Paul and Abraham. So Paul, and you can look him up in the Bible, and he wrote a decent amount of the New Testament, where he wrote letters to the churches. He also was a big pivotal piece to the movement of Christianity at the time. But he was also living in that darkness that I was talking about. There was a pivotal moment where the Christians at the time were being persecuted for speaking about the truth with that Jesus Christ was bringing to people around that time. And he was persecuting those people. And there was one specific person that was spoke on in the Bible, and his name was Stephen, who couldn't help but speak the truth because of the Holy Spirit that was dwelling in him. And he was put on trial. And while he was put on trial, he brought the truth to these people about how did they come to being a people that they are. And he was Jewish, speaking to Jewish people. And while doing this, while he was presenting all of this, there was something, when you read this in Acts, I believe is chapter 6. The book of Acts, chapter 6, where you can see this whole thing go down, where he get this glow on his face, and it made him resemble an angel, an angelic being. And then he starts to go in. He starts to talk about Moses and what their fathers went through in the wilderness and how they rejected the truth. And Moses also had that similar glow on his face, which he had to put a veil over his face to pretty much not scare the people, and because the glory of God was showing on him when he was to come down and present what God brought to him, or coming out the tent of meetings. And Stephen had the same similar glow, and essentially he was telling these people, bringing them the gospel. And the one thing is, when people are living in darkness, that's all they see is darkness. They don't see the light. They truly don't see the light. And this deeply affects them to the point where their emotions take over and their thoughts take over. And they got so tired of hearing this dude that they brought him outside of the court and they stoned him to death. And the most incredible thing about this story, while stoning him, he's seen that the heavens opened up to him. And he's seen God, and he's seen the Son of God sitting at his right hand. He's seen the Lamb. And when he knew that his soul was about to be taken up and he was about to experience sleep, this temporary rest, he asked God to forgive them because of their ignorance. One of Jesus Christ's last words were to forgive the people, for they know not what they do. And his last three words is, "It is finished," before his spirit was taken back up. But his work wasn't also done. Jesus' work wasn't also done. He had to go down to the depths of hell to get the keys of death. And then he was going to make his way back up outside to the highest of heavens, above any angelic being and any created creature, because that was the place that he originated from, due to the fact that he was the light, and through him all of life came through. All of life and creation came through him. Going back to the story of Stephen, they killed this dude. And the person that was also a part of this and a part of the persecution of not just him, but many, many other people that was proclaiming the same truth of the kingdom of God and the kingdom of heaven and peace, the true peace that was out there, that was preached by Jesus Christ. Paul was, before he became Paul, he was Saul, when he was out here persecuting and on a rampage. And he was a very, very famous story, his road to Damascus. And going back to that blinding light of once you're leaving the cave and you're exiting out the darkness and heading to the unknown world, he was blinded. He was literally blinded by the light. And Jesus Christ appeared to him and pretty much asked him, "Why are you persecuting me?" And Paul was so convicted by this light. He knew the source of the light immediately. He didn't think about it. He didn't emotionalize this light or anything. He knew. He called this light Lord. And he couldn't see for a couple of days. He was blinded by the light. He couldn't eat anything, none of that. And it took him a while to get his sight back. But once his sight came back, he got his true purpose and true calling in life. So the two examples, well, Stephen wasn't even an example. I didn't even name the second person. Wakanda did, but stay on track with me here, people. Please stay on track with me here. But once he got this true calling and once he got this true light, he couldn't help but to share it with any and everybody. He went back to the people that he was conspiring with to persecute the Christians, and he was trying to bring this light to them. And this presented a huge problem. It presented a huge problem. And the analogy that I was talking about with the allegory of the cave, where you going back and you return into the cave to bring the light back, that either they're going to treat you as a joke, but the more that you start to grow, something inside people, just like when they persecuted Stephen, is that they're going to try to kill you. So it's not only an allegory, but I can't stress this enough, that this stuff like truly happens in the world, man. And you can find countless amount of accounts in history with different figures where they died because they was bringing back the light of truth, and they was willing to die on that. They was willing to die on that hill and be martyrs. Paul was one of those people. And Paul was also stoned. Paul was also beat up in many places, ridiculed, persecuted, but he also convicted a lot of people to the truth as he once was convicted, just like Stephen was. And Paul's journey of him bringing the light to the darkness and shining light on the darkness caused him to be beheaded in Rome, I believe. And he was going to die in the truth. He knew when his time was coming, because when you accept the truth and you accept the true calling and your true purpose, you will be enlightened with any and everything that you're supposed to be enlightened with, because that is the power of the Holy Spirit. Somebody else that is the forefather that went on this journey, that's a well-known figure in Western religion of Christianity, Judaism, and what's his face? Islam, is Abraham. And Abraham took this journey of going from the world that he knew into the unknown world and making his return back. He got the call, I believe, at 75 years old, that he had to leave everything that he knew behind and go to a land that God was going to promise him for his seeds and the blessings that he was going to instill upon many, many people and many, many nations. And by a true act of faith, he went on that journey. He went on that journey. That is a very, very, very difficult journey to go on when you don't know how it's going to turn out. There's no blueprint that came before you, and it's a total act of faith. And act of faith is going towards the unseen, knowing that those things will come about. I didn't say believe, think, or feel, but I said knowing. That's very, very important. You have a knowing within you, and this knowing came within Abraham just as it came within Stephen, and just as it came with Paul. You have that within you. That is the true source of light, and that is the true source of where your purpose will come from when it's all said and done. And no matter what, be the rare breed around you to ascend out of the cave towards the true light. And even if it blinds you, sit there and adjust in that true light and get acclimated with it. And yeah, you got a choice whether to stay out there or you got a choice to come back with it. It's totally up to you. And it's also totally up to people. And if you're one of those, if you want to stay in darkness, stay in it. Suffer. Or find that true sense of peace, which you're going to have to struggle for regardless. So fight the good fight. You might as well fight the good fight. You might as well. And along this journey, personally, I was slowly but surely going through these changes and overcoming so much that I thought at first was outside of me, but then truly realized that everything was inside of me. That I projected on to other people and other things, but it was really coming from within me first and foremost that I had to get over. And the calling I accepted was doing the will of God to the best of my ability, and that was more important than this brand purpose served. That was more important than my friends. That was more important than my family, my siblings, my parents. It was the most important thing in the world. And once I knew this, I realized that I had to drop my ego. And the experience that I had in regards to this was 2 years ago with a friend of mine, Johnny, and another friend of mine, Ayo. And we had a spiritual experience in my boy Johnny's barbershop where I knew that I had a lot of letting go to do. And not only that, I was also already committed to letting go. And I remember we was praying for like hours. I'm like in tears and all of that. And I'm not feeling, it wasn't like tears of like sadness or none of that. It was like a letting go. And I was so prepared for it at that point. I was super prepared for it at that point. And once that happened, a lot of things in my life changed drastically. And I started like walking that narrow way, like wholeheartedly. And along me walking that narrow way, a lot of things changed in my life. I didn't hear as much from the people around me. I didn't want to be around certain environments and certain people because I knew it was bad for my internal world and external world. And I knew that protecting that was the most important thing. It was like super important to protect that. And to always be in constant prayer. And the way to get towards that, this is the trick. Be silent and be still. And by doing that, you will get to know God. Don't identify with your thoughts and don't identify with your feelings. And over time, that's what helped me overcome my false sense of self and the false beliefs of who I thought I was and what I was trying to be. And my advice to you guys is when you first wake up in the morning, give yourself 5 minutes of being still within yourself and collecting yourself. And whatever's going through your head, just let it go through and don't identify with it. And right before you go to sleep, do the same exact thing. Do the same exact thing. And don't be moved by any of these things. And don't go to sleep with a troubled heart. Let it all go. Let it all go before you go to sleep. And it's not going to be easy for you to do this at first, but over time, just like with practice, the more you keep doing this, the easier that is going to get. And not only that, the duration for you doing this is going to expand. And you're going to be able to do this more and more. But that ultimately was the journey that I've been going on for the last 4.5 years. That predated before the birth of Purpose Served. And it's been my whole entire life. And I'm on this walk until my expiration date hit. And I experienced temporary sleep myself. But while doing that, I will do the best that I can to live the truth to the best of my ability and reflect that onto life itself, because that's what I made an oath with God to do 2 years ago, and I signed that. I literally wrote this out and I signed it once it hit me, and this was back in 2023, and we're in 2025. Things will be changing. I want to get more interactions with you guys. I want you guys to reach out to me. And please, I don't necessarily ask you guys to do this. If you made it this far, share this with other people. find a way to get this out there so then that way we can expand and grow. And hopefully I get to meet you guys in person in the near future. If not, I'm already with you with spirit, and you're with me. Thank y'all, man. It's been a true blessing, man, and a true journey through and through. 99 episodes. That's crazy. That is so crazy. Who would still think that I'll have things to talk about up until this point? But, yeah. That's all I have for you guys. Daryl was out of here. Deuces.